Luther Kruger here, Big Blue Sun Museum, Solar Cooking, and I'm here with Laura in Brownsville, Texas. Hot, humid, but plenty of sun, and Laura does so many things with solar, it's incredible. And we want to talk a little bit about her vacuum tube cooker that she's put together, repurposed some pieces. And Fresnel lens, we'll talk a little bit about a project she's got going with that, and anything else she wants to talk about. So, thanks so much.
Thank you, Luther.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on down.
Yeah. First quick question always is, how did you learn about solar energy in any way, shape, or form, and how did you get into solar cooking?
I think my first experience with it was when we were younger. We were in a hurricane because we were here on the Gulf Coast. And so I remember with my parents, we had to flee, essentially. And we ended up running down to Mexico, and then it actually changed course and came there. And so we ended up getting hit by the hurricane. And there was no power, there was nothing the roads were damaged, and it's like the first time in my life that I really kind of realized like how dependent we are on, I guess, on the grid and on like these external sources of power. And I can't really remember exactly what it was, but I started to realize like we're completely ignoring the immense power of the sun that we have, and felt like profit was kind of the motivator driving that. And you know, corporations have a vested interest in not allowing us to, you know, use as much solar power as we can, because then that would disrupt their whole supply chain and, you know, their system of employing people. And so like they kind of want to keep us tracked, and it's a way to get money from people every month. And so I was kind of, you know, interested in just how we could use more of the resources ourselves instead of just paying for it.
Sure. And then for cooking, where did it go from there to cooking? The vacuum tube in particular, because that's a rare one. That was quite a while ago that you found a vacuum tube and started.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I wanted to start with. I remember in the hurricane we had here. Later, there was no power for days, and there was no way to cook anything. And just being in that kind of panicky situation where you keep waiting for the power to come back on, and you see like power trucks everywhere, and they can't even get like the cables up, you know, and things have been destroyed. And just kind of from there, like I didn't want to be dependent. I felt like we were just wasting the energy that's available to us. And as I started reading about it, and you know, the kilowatts per square meter, it's just an extraordinary amount of power that's available. And then, you know, like with solar panels, you only get a percentage of that, but with concentrated solar, it's like pretty close to 100%, depending on, you know, how efficient your panel is. Reflectors. So
Sure.
kind of decided, yeah, I'm gonna start messing around with it, see how much I can get this house taken off grid entirely.
Yeah. And the vacuum tube, when did you first stumble on that idea?
Where was that from? That was kind of a while back. I remember reading about someone who had put a hot dog in a solar tube for just a regular water heater. And I remember thinking, oh my god, that's such a great idea. And yeah, like of course, you know, it's completely insulated, it's black on the inside, it's going to absorb it, but it's not going to let the heat out. So I started looking around trying to find like the biggest one I could. And I had this is a very old barbecue pit, and I'd seen the rammed solar cooker tube
Sure.
around somewhere. I was looking for him, and I thought, no, that's what I want. And then I measured it when the dimensions they gave, and it was like perfect for this. And so I was like, oh my god, that would be crazy, but I love the idea. And I'm gonna convert my barbecue pit into a solar barbecue. I just became obsessed with that idea. I really wanted to do it. And so I did, and I got like a power drill and some drill bits, cut the holes in the sides for the cooker tube, and that was pretty simple. I mean, I can open it and show
Sure.
you. Needs a little help. This reflector is very old. This was actually someone else's. Someone had been selling a solar cooker, bucket cooker, and it's a bucket with a reflector all around it.
I've seen that. In fact, I tried to get that, and they were out. They stopped making it. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I finally got around to it. But anyway, great.
That's why there's a hole here. That was the initial like semicircle for the bucket. And this is supposed to wrap around the bucket kind of like that. But it kept blowing over, and so then I was putting like sand in the bucket to try and hold it over. We kept having to adjust it. And I was kind of like, no, you know, I want to do the barbecue pit. I'm like all about the barbecue pit. So this is, that's the original reflector. This I put another type of reflector I bought. At the time I think it said it was like 95% reflective. Definitely needs to be cleaned and need to replace that. And it makes a nice semicircle. You just leave it by itself like that.
Sure. It's probably some kind of aluminized mylar. But
Yeah.
it's a little thicker than usual for...
Yeah, that's why I liked it. It makes a good, a nice curve. I was thinking of putting magnets up here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Either way, you know, you turn it on, you close it, you know, on and off, you just close it. Really nice protective outer core. Unfortunately, the ram tube, I'd left it out like this, and we had some really strong wind, or a bird, I'm not sure, because this is like cast iron, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the wind's gonna blow, but we got a lot of birds here. So if someone knocks it over like that, and it just crunched my glass tube.
Oh man.
So this is the new one. This is the ones I just ordered. I'm gonna give you quite a few of them.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's how that came.
Oh yeah.
It's really easy to burn away.
Yeah, I can't wait to get them, get 3 of them to Kurt in San Antonio, and then what's the next one? Gordy and Barstow, Craig in Reno, and Stan in Lake Sonoma. And then I'll have a couple left for myself.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're lots of fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
They cook really fast. I've cooked all sorts of stuff in there. Bread, beans cook really well in there. Basically anything you want.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done watermelons for sushi. You have to leave it there for hours to really get the watermelon to break down.
Oh wow, okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, obviously super cost efficient. You know, costs $0 or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well,
Having
cool.
fun with it.
I mean, I love it just for 2 reasons, of course. Really great use of the vacuum tube, and then repurposing, and repurposing the fossil fuel thing to actually use decent, clean energy.
Right?
Yes, yes.
I used to show it when I was renting as an Airbnb, and I'd cook people's stuff here. Sweet potatoes, you know, they'll be ready really fast.
Mhm.
Then you can, you know, make them sweet potatoes for breakfast and bread, all kinds of stuff.
Sure. When we can move on to that, that's pretty much the whole story on the vacuum tube.
Just an idea I had taken apart some TVs, and I was cooking with those, and I love using the Fresnels because you get such intense heat that you can really just put a pan over it and start, you know, frying eggs, baking eggs, almost like being indoors on a stove. And the only thing that was a little bit inconvenient about it was that you have to, you know, the sun's moving, so you have to kind of like change the position a little bit. And so this was my idea. I just literally just got this done. I framed these myself. I don't know how well the resolution is. They have this was a pain. These were holes that I drilled into the side here to get this fishing line.
Oh, sure.
That way, like, even if you have like a strong wind, that's what took out my last one, is that a real strong wind came, knocked it out. Anything would knock it out of the wood frame, and so I told myself this time I'm gonna do like a frame with an edging on it. You can see this has like an extra
Sure.
support so that it doesn't just fall out. And then even this fishing line will hold it so it doesn't, even in like a real strong wind, or even if something hits it, you know, like a stick or something goes flying and hits it, I don't think this guy's gonna come out.
Yeah.
So the idea here, and I really haven't messed around with this one too much yet, is setting it up probably in like a dome shape, so that at any point in the day as the sun's moving over it, there's going to be some light coming in, and it's going to kind of be focusing on the center.
Sure.
And either that or putting like a reflector in the back, like a metallic reflector, so that even if you angle this up a little bit, you would always have the light shining into like a certain spot. I'm trying to get it as passive as possible and not having to do as many adjustments, and trying to just use the shape of things and the geometry of things
Sure.
to avoid having to move it around
Yep.
and just let it do its thing, like the natural
That's
shape
the
and movement of the sun.
yeah. That's the holy grail for solar cooker design.
I think so.
yeah.
I think so. And I mean, just being able to cook a whole meal with the sun is really incredible. I mean, I love doing it, and every time you come in, you have like this sense of real accomplishment. Like how is not everyone not doing this already? Like why is it just some people messing around with this? Why isn't it being like really like developed as an alternative?
Exactly.
You know? But I like contributing. You know, maybe we'll find a super convenient way of doing things.
Yeah.
And let's see, the last one is this is based on, I'd read about a type of water purifier being used mostly, I want to say, in Africa. It's called the SODIS water purification system, which is SODIS. And what they do is they get bottles, like they get plastic bottles, and they fill them with water, and on the back half of them they can use anything that's reflective. So it could even be something like the back of a bag of chips, the reflective metallic foil.
Sure.
And they coat the back of the water bottle with that, and it creates a perfect funnel, right? So you're actually, when you put it into the sun, and the sun's overhead, and I should have filled it more so you don't have that bubble. You're essentially like a linear concentrator, right? So as the sun's moving over, on either side of the parabola, you're getting a concentration line of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that will pretty much kill, I want to say like 99.9% of viruses, bacteria, protozoa, anything in the water. And they've tested it to see how true that is. And is it safe to take, like river water and put it in one of these and leave it out for a day? And how clean, how clean will the water be afterwards? And essentially it was very, very clean. The ultraviolet and just the light in general, the concentrated band of light over 12 hours would completely kill everything in there. And I was really interested in that. I try to avoid using plastic as much as possible, and so I made this one out of glass. And basically, I spray painted half of it with a metallic coating, and then I spray painted over that a black coating to kind of warm it as well as concentrate the light.
Oh, sure.
And I had that one out there for like 3 years, I was telling you, just to see what would happen. It was pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I'd get like a major algae growth or something growing in there. I like to fill it with tea. And what you can do is get like mango leaves. I also get rosemary, and then a tea bag, and you wrap it up and make like a little packet. You can just throw it in there. And what happens is the concentrated light on those leaves like drives photosynthesis, even though they're not attached to the tree. And so you'll see all these oxygen bubbles coming up out of them, which we can do it. It'll take a little while for it though, if you want to film it. And so you've got not only like, the concentrated UV in there, but now you've got oxygen, like dissolved oxygen in the water. And it lasts a long time. I've made tea that way, and it doesn't go bad. It's pretty interesting, I think.
Well, it's interesting about the leaves because, you think of the leaves and the tree or the bush or whatever as being one system, and you take one part away, it's done for. But that's like a little solar panel.
Right,
and it just needs to get some sun, and it's going to start something. And
it's in water, and it's just going to keep running that cycle.
Yeah.
And so I was really interested in that. I wanted to know how long it would keep working, because I have an empty swimming pool, and I wanted to see if there was a way to design it before we put before we finish it, that would reduce the need to use chlorine on it. So I've been looking at natural pools where you put portion of it, you root it with water plants, and they'll be filtering out any of the nutrient, like leaves and stuff that fall in. Another idea was just shaping it like this, like a barrel, and with a metallic or even metallic tiles on the inside. Something. Just trying it, seeing on a small scale if just the shape of this and the way that, the water behaves in it with the light would be enough to keep it clean without, you know, algae breaking out in there. Even though it was full of nutrients, it was full of leaves. I left it there for like 3 years, and it was pretty clear. And
Sure.
I'm thinking I should have saved that water and tested it, but
yeah. Well, you know, it would really be cool if we could throw a leaf in there. How quick do you think it might start bubbling? Because that's the kind of stuff I love getting on camera.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably. Well, the sun's coming out. I think I'll throw it in there.
Yeah, give it a shot. Great.
This is just rosemary, mango leaves. Oops, in a tea bag. This doesn't fall apart on me. Let me put it over here with the sun. Start pretty quick. So one of the issues with that, I was wondering if it would be stronger if instead of just using spray paint, although I like that it makes that really nice curve on the back of the glass.
Yeah.
Maybe get like some of the reflectics, that metallized material, and attach it to that. So I don't know what the reflective substance in the spray paint is, and how absorbent it is of water, of the.
Well, so another question I had,
Uh-huh.
if you're comfortable talking about it, what's up with your? What was that all about? That is so cool.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
So I've been messing around with solar. I have so many more designs, just on paper, just things that I've drawn up. You know, I'll start looking for parts of it. It's a real rabbit hole once you start researching these things.
Yeah.
It's just endlessly entertaining, and you can learn about one thing, and then that leads you down. You start learning about something else, and just spend hours like that. And so interesting. And so for the shutdown was basically home, like, you know, with nothing to do at all.
Yep.
And they were having competitions looking for ideas. And so one of the ideas was, or the competitions was about fisheries, and they have this real problem with there being cyanoalgae in the water, and that it not only makes the fish taste bad, but it can also like use up the oxygen in the water. And how do you control that? And it's a major problem. It's costing like millions of dollars every year, especially in the summer. But also in the winter, they have another problem where the fish, it gets really cold, and so the fish, they kind of stop eating, and then sometimes they'll get hungry and they'll scavenge, and they'll eat like the dying algae that, because it's so cold that, you know, a lot of the seaweed dies, and so then they'll eat that. So then they, you know, they kind of take on the flavor of what they're eating, and so then they taste bad just because of that. If other fish freeze to death and die, they'll eat, you know, the dead fish, and then it just causes like bad flavors altogether. And so I was reading into it, like more of the chemistry of what's happening with the fish. And this is going back a little bit, but apparently it's the type of flavors that cause that, the compounds that cause that, stay in the fish's system, but it's very temperature dependent. You know, if you could just raise the temperature of the water a bit in the winter, they would flush those compounds out, and it wouldn't even it would help in other ways also. Like, they wouldn't be scavenging so much. You could feed them the normal feed, and they would be eating it. They wouldn't go into these like semi-hibernation states. And so it's kind of like going along that route. I know a lot of other people were looking at maybe chemical things you could add to the water to kill the algae, things like
You
that.
want to avoid that.
Yeah, like I really try, if there's some natural way of doing things that just uses the, the resources we have around us. And so one of the things I found was that, while researching it, is that the soil type that they use when they build these aquaculture farms is usually clay soil, because it has to be able to hold the water in, right? So you can't have like a loamy soil, or the water will just go right through. So we have clay soil here, and I was telling you about the idea to put underground pipes in the ground, for cooling and heating in the summer, to blow air through them. And someone had told me, if you do that in clay soil, the clay is going to hold on to the heat, and it's just going to end up turning into a heater. So even in the winter, you'll get hot air, but in the summer, it's just going to blow hot air at you also. It's eventually the clay is going to hold on to all that heat. And kind of like that was also in my thinking, and I was thinking, the problem they're having is that they need a way to raise the temperature in the winter, but they also need something that will remove that algae in the summer. And you need to be able to shut it off so that you don't overheat the water in the summer, right? And so I'd been reading about different fish they could put in the tanks with them, the type of fish that eat algae. And there was a type, though I don't remember the name of it, but it's essentially a filter feeder. Mm-hmm. So you just put them in the tanks with the fish, it'll just swim around, and all it eats is algae. And so that was one way of removing it, year round. I thought, well, that's the solution, right? Now the issue is that fish is super sensitive to any kind of temperature drop. And the more I read about that fish in particular, it turns out that it's not as much opposed to low temperatures as it is to the actual rate at which the temperature drops. So a sudden drop will kill it, but if you gradually drop the temperature, it'll be okay.
And that's usually for the change of seasons. It's not sudden. It usually isn't sudden, right? So
yeah, what was happening, like what happened in recently, is that you have these sudden cold fronts, and it'll just like rapidly become very, very cold. And like here, it took out so many fish. Like we had the Texas freeze, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, and it just took out, killed a bunch of our trees. I know in San Antonio in the Riverwalk there were dead fish everywhere. So I was thinking, well, so the common factor here is that you need a way to stabilize the temperature for that particular fish to stay alive. And so I thought, well, you've got clay soil, and it's very good at holding, heat. Like ovens were made out of it for years. You've got the ability to take, these are wide open spaces, right? They're big fish farms. So you've got plenty of room to put solar, and I thought, why not just embed like geothermal loops into the clay soil, run, salt water through some solar collectors like they use for pool heaters.
Sure.
Heat up the ground, and so that way, even in the event of a sudden cold front or freeze, you'd have the stored heat in the ground that would keep the temperature of the pond from dropping too quickly.
Sure. Well, and then the other question I had was, what kind of background do you have? Because I slept through science classes. I understand what you're talking about because you express it the way an idiot can understand, but better. Better. It's thorough. It's not like 8th grade level, it's all levels, and if more people could express things that way.
I was a pre-med major, government and pre-med, and I ended up going to medical school for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
But sure. I honestly didn't like it, and ended up, at the time, I was working in medical research on the side, and I thought, you know what, I really enjoy research. And I'd much rather do that than do,
sure,
like hospital stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I love the science aspect of it. And I've always, really enjoyed science.
Sure.
And I think that's probably, maybe a little clear. But, I love that. I love all the different ways, science and life can intersect. And just being creative and trying to use the things around us, bottles, barbecue pits, foil, anything we've got, there's a use for it. And just being able to find, apply principles, scientific principles, light and constant. That's what I've been reading about recently is a lot of optics.
Yeah.
And, you know, how light reflects off of things. Really interesting stuff. So that's kind of it. I enjoyed like showing my stuff to people. I had an Airbnb here, and that was how I advertised it. I said, yeah, I'll come show it. You know, if you have kids, I'll show them cooking and some principles of light reflecting and how to do useful things with the things around us.
Sure.
I've shown you the alcohol stove inside, made out of, you know, aluminum cans.
Yep.
And I've had those for like close to 5 years now. So it's just interesting. I find like the whole process, and I feel like we don't take advantage of what's around us. And we don't even notice it. We don't realize how powerful all of, you know, the sun and the wind and everything that we have.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like where I came from.
Yeah. But I'm trying to catch up. I mean, and solar cooking is really, the great thing is I learn enough about the physics of it where I'll know, okay, if I try to do this, that's going down the wrong path because the science is not there. It's not going to back up what I'm doing. So just don't try it. Just don't try it.
You can try it. I mean, it's the more you try stuff, you know, you'll figure out stuff you wouldn't expect. I like the whole process. I like meeting people who are into that
There
too.
you go. Yeah. Thanks for the hospitality, food. It's the spot.
Well, thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, Luther.
Well, it's what I do.